I never meant for my son's first real hunting trip to turn into a memory that still wakes me up at night. All I wanted was a weekend in the woods, just the two of us, the way my dad did for me when I was his age. Something simple, something we could talk about years from now. Instead, I'm still trying to explain to myself what we saw. This was up in northern Montana, early November. A cold snap had hit harder than usual, leaving a crust of ice on everything: the trees, the fallen logs, the edges of puddles that crunched under every step. My boy Tyler was 12, old enough to shoot under my supervision, young enough to look at every pine needle like it was a discovery. The first day went fine, cold, quiet, just the usual scanning ridges through binoculars, listening to the wind. We didn't see anything worth tracking, but it didn't bother me. The whole point was being out there. The second morning was when things went wrong. We were a couple miles from camp, working our way along a ridge that overlooked a narrow valley. It was still early, sun barely crawling over the tops of the trees, and everything had that bluish tint the world gets before it fully wakes up. Then I saw it, a deer, big, too big even, standing perfectly still at the tree line across the valley, broadside to us, not grazing, not looking around, just still. I crouched immediately. "Ty," I whispered. "Down." He eased beside me, already raising his binoculars, breath puffing white in the cold. "You see it?" I asked. "Yeah," he said. "It's staring at us." I lifted my own binoculars and felt my stomach tighten. The deer's head was turned directly toward us. Its eyes, even from that distance, looked wrong, too dark, too focused. Deer don't stare like that, not frozen, not unblinking, but it was a clean shot, a perfect shot. I steadied my rifle, deep breath in, slow breath out, crosshairs on the ribs. The shot cracked through the cold air, echoing down the valley. The deer jerked, not from impact, more like surprise, and then it just stood there. No stumble, no run, no reaction. It simply looked back at us, head tilting a few degrees, like it was listening. "Dad," Tyler whispered. "Did you miss?" "No," I said too quickly. I didn't, because I didn't. I knew the difference between a clean hit and a miss. I felt the shot land. I saw it land. The deer slowly walked back into the trees, not limping, not frantic, just stepping into the shadows like it had somewhere to be. Cold crept through me in a way the air couldn't explain. "We're going down there," I said. "Stay close." The whole walk down I kept replaying it, the shot, the way it didn't react. Animals don't do that, not even elk. When we reached the tree line, there was nothing. No blood, no fresh tracks, no disturbed brush, no sign anything had been there at all. "What the hell?" I muttered. Tyler looked up at me, worried. "Dad, maybe it wasn't a deer?" I gave a half laugh, mostly to calm him. What else would it be? But something old in my memory stirred, a story my mother used to tell me before bed. A story meant to keep kids from wandering too far into the woods alone. The Wendigo, a thing that mimicked, a thing that tricked, a thing that stared too long, too still. I pushed the thought out of my head. We chalked it up to cold, to weird lighting, to anything rational we could think of. We returned to camp as the sky dimmed into that early winter darkness that always feels heavier in the mountains. Dinner was simple, soup on a propane stove. Tyler ate quietly. He wasn't scared, not exactly, but unsettled. I could feel it. When we turned in for the night, the woods were too quiet. Even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. I must have drifted off for an hour or two when something pulled me awake. A soft crunch, then another, slow, measured footsteps. At first I thought it was an animal, but the steps circled the camp. One side, pause, then the back, pause, then slowly toward the front again. I held my breath. Another step, then two. Too light for a bear, too slow for a wolf, too deliberate for anything that belonged out there. I unzipped the tent just enough to peek outside. Darkness, trees, nothing else. But the steps stopped right outside the tent, close, too close, and then breathing. Not an animal's breath, not the heavy huff of a deer or the chuff of a moose. This was shallow, wet, almost human. I grabbed the rifle, ready to shout or fire, when the breathing stopped. Abruptly, silence swallowed the forest. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At dawn, I stepped outside and froze. Tracks, but not hoof prints. Blood-soaked, dragging prints, like something injured had limped around our tent. The blood wasn't bright red. It was almost black on the frost. Tyler stepped beside me. "Dad, is that from the deer?" I didn't answer. The prints circled the tent twice, then headed back into the trees, dragging something heavy. I thought about the deer, its eyes, the way it didn't react to the shot, and I thought about my mother's story, the creature that pretended to be hurt to lure hunters deeper into the woods. "We're packing up," I said. "Now." Tyler didn't argue. We tore down camp in under 10 minutes. I kept scanning the trees, waiting to see something tall and thin watching from the trunks. We got out fast, too fast for comfort, and I swear, as we drove down the forest road, I saw something in the mirror, a shape stepping out onto the ridge we'd hunted from. Tall, wrong, leaning in a way no animal should, watching us, not running, not following, just watching. When we hit the main road, I finally breathed. Miles later, Tyler spoke quietly. "That deer, it wasn't normal, was it?" I didn't lie. "No," I said, "it wasn't. We've hunted since, but never in those woods, and never in November, and sometimes when the wind blows just right, I swear I hear footsteps in the leaves, slow, deliberate, circling something that isn't there, as if it remembers us, as if it's waiting for us to come back." The thing about hunting at night is, you're never really alone, even when you think you are. The woods have their own ways of listening, and a few years ago on a late-season Idaho elk trip, I learned that the hard way. There were 3 of us that weekend, me, my younger brother Mark, and our buddy Luis. We hunted the same central Idaho drainage every year and stayed in the same old Forest Service cabin. 1 room, bunks on the wall, a wood stove, no electricity. It was the kind of place we used to love. That season felt off from the start. A storm had pushed in early, leaving patches of crusted snow and a sky that stayed a flat, breathless gray. You couldn't shake the feeling the forest was holding something back. We got in, unpacked, ate, and went to bed early. Around 3 in the morning, I woke up to a faint crackle, the sound of one of our handheld hunting radios coming alive on its own. The screen was glowing. No one had touched it. I picked it up, whispered for Mark or Luis, but got nothing but static and a soft click, like someone letting go of the talk button far away. By daylight, I convinced myself it was interference. We split up to hunt the next morning. The cold was sharp, every footstep crunching through the thin crust. We kept in touch on the radios as usual. A couple hours in, I heard something impossible. The radio hissed, and then I heard my own voice, the exact line I had said on the porch hours earlier. "Base, this is 1. You ladies copy?" Same tone, same little laugh, but I hadn't touched the radio. I froze, tried to brush it off, told myself it was some weird leftover transmission bouncing around. It bothered me more than I wanted to admit. Later, when I talked to Luis on the radio, the mimicry got worse. After he spoke, my voice came through again, repeating his line in my tone. "Feels like it's coming straight down the canyon now." My exact voice, only slightly off, like an imitation. I snapped at them, thinking it was a prank. Neither of them knew what I was talking about. Luis sounded genuinely freaked. Mark too. We agreed to head back early. The hike back felt wrong, silent, heavy. Every time the radio crackled, I stiffened. Once I heard my own laugh cut into the static. Once I heard Mark say something he hadn't said. The air felt tight, like we were being followed. At the cabin, we compared notes. All three of us had heard our own voices, or each other's, saying things we'd said hours or days earlier, things said at home, on old phone calls, stuff no radio should have. We decided the radios were done for the day, turned them off, batteries still in, but the units left on the table. After dark, one radio clicked on by itself. The screen lit up. The speaker hissed. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. "Dad," a voice said. My son's voice. He was 2 states away with his mom, nowhere near any radio. "Dad, where are you?" My legs nearly gave out. Luis yanked the charging cord from the wall. The radio stayed on. Mark popped the battery out, dropped it on the table. The radio died only after one last crackle. We didn't talk much after that. We barely slept. Around 2 a.m., while I was awake keeping the stove alive, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, measured, upright. They circled the cabin, front, side, back, always pausing like something was listening. I didn't look out the window, didn't open the door, just sat there with my hand on the rifle, heart thudding. Near dawn, the footsteps faded. In the morning, we found vague impressions in the frost. Not animal tracks, not clear boot prints, just soft human-shaped depressions. And on the porch, one of the radios, the same one we had locked in the bed of the truck under a tarp and a cooler, sitting neatly in the snow, screen dark, battery removed. We left within an hour. We drove out in silence, each of us trying to rationalize something that wouldn't fit any explanation. We haven't used those radios since. They're in a box in my garage now, won't even power on anymore. But sometimes, late at night when the house is quiet, I swear I hear a faint static hiss, like a half-pressed talk button somewhere in the dark. And if I really listen, I can almost make out my own voice.